Alright, so we've been working with parallelograms. Today we're going to be working with three other shapes. Okay? First one is a rhombus. So these are all parallelograms. So this is also supposed to go in your mini book. Yeah, next page is rhombus. So rhombus is what we made in the bell work today. A rhombus is a parallelogram. Now, what you need to understand is all of these shapes are parallelograms. Rhombus, square, and rectangle. Those are the three shapes we're going to talk about. All three of them are parallelograms. So all three of them have all the properties of parallelograms. So they all have those 4, 5, forget, properties. Opposite, so name one of them. Name property of a parallelogram. Consecutive angle supplementary. Joe, name another one.
On the opposite sides of
Be more specific. Which opposite sides?
the opposite angles.
Okay. Opposite angles are congruent. What do we know about both pairs of opposite sides, Riley? Both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. What do we know about the diagonals? Not that they're congruent. Diagonals of a parallel do what, Johnson? The diagonals of a parallelogram do what? Where's your mini book? Carla. They bisect. So we have opposite angles congruent. Consecutive angles are what? Consecutive angles supplementary. Opposite side. Each pair of opposite sides is what? No. No. Okay, look. Here's a parallelogram. These two sides are, they are congruent and they are parallel. These two sides are congruent and they are parallel.
So a trapezoid?
But not a trapezoid. No, this is on your rectangle page.
I do it.
No, rhombus. You have parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square. Okay, so that's a rectangle. A rectangle is, again, all the same properties of a parallelogram plus 4 right angles. Yes.
Does that mean they have corresponding parallel? Like the top, the bottom, the
Uh-huh.
parallel, and the left and right sides parallel to each other?
Yep.
So should we put that down?
That's up to you. It's your notes, it's your mini book. What I would do is I would indicate that, I would note somewhere on the rectangle page, I would say has all the properties of parallelogram plus. That's what I do. I would reference that it has the properties of a parallelogram. Okay, and then the last one, square. What do you think we're going to say about a square?
It's equals
What's equal?
everything.
All of its sides.
All the sides and equals.
That's right.
So square what? This is 6-4. Okay. If you are looking for a very easy way to remember this, take a look at this.
It's a square. How did you not know that? A circle. On the square. Square. Oval.
Okay, if these,
Really? I didn't know that. You're circular as that circle. And it's not circular. Don't say it's not all the way circular. The first one on the left. That's
Does this go?
rhombosis, rectangulosis, squarosis.
ow.
What?
Okay, so basically, a square is a combination of a rhombus and a rectangle. Take a rhombus, take a rectangle, put it together, you get a square. Yes. No, you don't necessarily need. It's up to you what you want to put in your book. Remember, you're allowed to use this book in your notes. On the test. Sorry, yes. This mini book that you're creating, you will be allowed to use it on your test. So the more stuff you put in it, the better off you'll be. Yes.
What would be words to write down?
Well, you have room on the last page for notes. So if you want to put it on the last page, you can. If you want to put it on any of the pages that relate to rhombuses, squares, or rectangles, it's up to, again, it's up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do this.
Do we start this on chapter 6? So like if I wanted to go in afterwards, that would help me on my book?
You cannot put this stuff on the angles of a polygon. The first section in chapter 6 was the angles of a polygon. That can't be in there. This is just for the special shapes.
Just for the special shapes. Okay, like, so what if I
Section
want
2 and 3 was parallelograms. 4 and 5 are rhombuses, squares, and
so
rectangles.
I can put like, from what can I put on, What
6-2.
chapter? 6-2 and up, right? Okay.
And then tomorrow we're going to do trapezoids and kites.
Ooh, kites. Can we watch the video?
No. Okay, no. At all. Yeah. This is one of the There we go. This is really good marking. Okay. Alright, so basically, this is the type of question that you might see on the end of course exam. You'll be given a picture. You'll be given a picture, and you'll be asked to determine is something a rhombus, a rectangle, a square, or it will probably say the fourth choice would be none of those. So basically, if you see it has E, F, G, H, we see the two sides are congruent, two consecutive sides are congruent, and here we have A, B, C, and D with one right angle in the corner. Okay? So, we can say that ABCD is a rectangle. How do we know? We know that opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. Remember, we're starting with the premise that it's a parallelogram. Okay? You have to understand that. So you have all the properties of a parallelogram. So what do we know about parallelograms? That opposite angles are congruent. That means if angle B is a right angle, that means angle D is a right angle, and therefore they are 90. Now, again, in a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel. And this is the part I think that a lot of you have trouble with. If AB is parallel to CD, that means that AD is a transversal. Any line that cuts through two other lines is called a transversal. Understand that the lines don't have to be parallel. In this case, they are. So we have two parallel lines and a transversal. So if we look at angle D and angle A, they are what? What's the relationship of those two angles? Somebody else. Let's pick somebody.
There's my pet in there.
Larry.
Yes.
What's the relationship between angle A and angle D? Why are they supplementary? What's their relationship? Does anybody know? Riley? No, they're not vertical angles. Joe? They are consecutive, so which means what? It means they're supplementary. Good. So if this angle is 90, then this angle has to be 90. And that means that this angle has to be 90. So we know that all four of the angles are 90 degrees. They're all right angles.
Makes sense.
Since it has four right angles, it's a rectangle. A parallelogram with four right angles is a rectangle. So we can say that ABCD is a rectangle. Okay. You cannot conclude that it's a square. The only way we could know that it's a square is if we can figure out or we're told that all four sides are the same. So again, don't go by how it looks. You know it doesn't look like a square, but until we can't prove it, it's a possibility that it's a square. Okay, I'd like you to do the got it question. E, F, G, H, E, F, G, H. I want you to indicate whether it's a rhombus, a rectangle, or a square, and I want you to explain why. Go ahead.
I give it to you now.
Kai, you're a very frustrating student. Because I see great potential in you. I see the ability for you to do really well in here. Because you actually, what I see is you have a good innate understanding of this stuff. You get it.
I do.
You understand the thing, but you fall down on different areas. What are you doing? You should be discussing this with your partner. Okay, you can do it beside the dining room. Okay, draw that picture on your own paper. Hey, whoa, no.
They don't serve your kind.
Blame white.
Where's that? Explain.
They're worried.
Wait, okay.
It has four
Two sides are congruent. That one side is congruent, and that side has congruent to that side, and that has congruent to
Is that fine?
yeah. I said if one of the sides is parallel to the other one, it's parallel to that.
Okay, just so you know, I'm canceling tonight's homework.
Yes.
You're paying that to us.
Okay. Spare us. What did we do?
Yeah.
We're gonna break you.
What are you doing?
Me?
Take it here and here. You should be doing it.
That's my idea was like keep me
What
out.
are you doing?
Yeah, like this is what I do. I put
Okay, 1 minute.
Like, I mean, is it like, I don't know. Sounds like
Not wrong.
No such thing as throwing
okay,
puppies.
if opposite sides of the room compares to I give myself a paper.
I'm gonna teach you guys to be legit.
I heard it out there.
Okay. You. All right. Let's. Okay. Even Naya. Is EFGH a rhombus, square, or rectangle? It is a rhombus.
It's a rhombus. Yeah.
Why can you say it's a rhombus?
Because I want to.
Shut up. That's not what I was gonna say. But, I don't know. It's like, if one opposite sides. Because both pairs of opposite sides are congruent.
Keep going.
Okay, if both sides, if one side is congruent to the other one.
You guys are so close.
It has like 4 congruent sides.
Carla.
All 4 sides are congruent.
That's right.
Are you serious?
Get it? This is it.
We just took. We just what?
I don't even know what you're for.
Okay, here's the problem with the logic is, you don't know anything about those. You can't say whether they're right angles or not right angles. That's the end of the story. You cannot say anything about the angles. You're not given any information. Hey,
What? Oh, where my pen go?
stop throwing things. Sit down,
No.
please.
So we can.
Okay, listen. What you want to do, the answer to the question is rhombus. The reason it's a rhombus, go through, to answer these types of questions, go through your checklist of parallelogram properties. Remember, we're starting with the premise that it's a parallelogram. So one of the properties of a parallelogram is, what properties of a parallelogram relate to the sides? What do we know about the sides of a parallelogram? They are parallel. What else? But does that help us prove something else? Is knowing that they're parallel going to help us prove something? We're told that the two sides,
The two pairs are
opposite, both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. So that means that GH is congruent to EF, and that FG is congruent to EH. And since these two sides are congruent to each other, that means all 4 sides are congruent. Now, what do we know about a rectangle?
All sides and
The sides are not necessarily, the sides are
Both-
not congruent.
Both pairs are parallel.
Yeah, right angles.
Squares, we have to have right angles. Rectangles, we have to have right angles. We don't know anything about the right angle, about the angle. But in a rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. And that's why we can say it's a rhombus. Okay, again, for those of you who aren't listening, no homework tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.